Let's truth, shall we? What is truth and where does it come from? That is the very first primal question that we want to consider as adults in this world right now. How do we know what is true and what is not? I was watching Dr. Robert Malone talk to Tucker Carlson in depth, and Malone has been through it. It's interesting because he said, I had the view that Washington Post and CNN and the New York Times could be trusted, and I believed them at face value for whatever they said. And he said, and I was working in Washington, D.C., and an entrepreneur came and started talking to me about a drug he wanted permitted. And he said, well, logically, it should happen like this. And we said, well, you have to understand things don't happen logically here. And he said, in that moment, I decided that I was the boiling frog. And that's really smart. Guy has a PhD. He's super brilliant. He's invented RNA, all of these things. And he said, I've been the boiling frog. And if you are in Western civilization and if you participate in society, you are the boiling frog. You didn't realize it. You didn't notice it. You weren't born that way. That's not what you intended. That's not what you wanted to be. But you're the boiling frog. You're the frog that's boiling. What does that mean? That means that things that made no sense to me here slowly get changed until they're my new reality. Something that I would have rejected offhand after a few years becomes normalcy. The biggest place, unfortunately, to see this happening is in the educational system. You go into a college, you go into university, and the heat is turned up. And they start with 101 classes, absolute truth. Here's the basics about molecules, atoms, whatever. Then you get to, which also are theoretical constructs and based upon ideas and conceptions, but we'll get to the source of truth in a moment. But then you get to the end of it and you may believe completely differently than you believed before. Someone I love very much told me, she says, I watched this person go to school, more specifically law school, and she said, and I saw that he was taught how to think. And the way that he was taught to think was not logical. It wasn't rational. It wasn't just. It wasn't loving. It wasn't merciful. But it was the law. And when he got done with that, his thinking was completely different. And I've watched this person think and act in the world for the past few years. And I've watched how he pursues what he thinks about and how he gets value. I mean, the simple idea of getting value in the world is I create something, I offer it, someone gives me money. Okay, I have value. I just got money, right? But there's so many people who use the principles involved in the legal system to get money in completely different ways. And they have concepts and ideas and structures and theories that allow them to get value in other ways through the government, basically through the power of the state, which is like having the mafia on your side. Oops, didn't mean for this to get too political. Unfortunately, everything's connected, isn't it? So, back to how do we find truth? How do we not become boiling frogs? And then he spent the last year, Robert Malone, going through the process of deprogramming and deconditioning. He was a lifelong Democrat. He voted Democrat. He contributed to Biden's reelection. And after this all happened, he says, I'll never vote Democrat again. And he says only conservative people are allowing me to speak and share my message. My brain has turned completely around. And what I thought was evil and wrong, he says, Glenn Beck, I might as well just go on Alex Jones. And then he talks to Glenn Beck and he realizes he's really nice and they have so much stuff in common. And yeah, he was trained to believe that these are the enemy. All right, this is not where this is supposed to go, but it's going this way. These people are the enemy. They don't believe as we believe. They don't act as we act. If I'm a Democrat, the Republicans are the enemy. If I'm a Republican, the Democrats are the enemy. It doesn't matter, right? And he was stuck in these beliefs, even though, and he says it, look at Germany, very educated populace that apparently descended into mania in the 30s. Why? Why did they have what he called mass formation psychosis? What is mass formation or mass psychosis? You've heard the phrase mass psychosis, right? How can a whole society drop into psychosis, not seeing the truth, not believing things, not understanding the truth when it's presented to them? How can that happen? That can't happen to us. We're educated, we're smart. well, we're boiled frogs. That's how it is. And so he's been deprogramming, and now he sees things completely differently, and his truth is utterly different, and he sees himself now becoming a target of dramatic and drastic and intense attack. Why? Because the truth threatens anything that is not real. Anything that is false, lies built on artificiality, on artifice, falls under attack when the truth starts being spoken. So that said, how could he have avoided being the boiled frog in the first place? How could he have avoided being mind controlled and programmed in the first place? How could he have found truth? Gurdjieff. If you haven't heard of Gurdjieff, he's something to look at. And some of his students, Ouspensky, Tertium Organum, all sorts of fantastic treatises about truth that don't get taught and get completely ignored. You're going to have to find truth, you have to go off the beaten path. And the strange thing is, at the same time, if you're going to look for information, at the same time, all truth is contained inside you at any given moment. Your body contains ultimate truth, and the source of your truth is your senses. Your senses and your sensations, inside and outside, tell you what is true, tell you what to follow, tell you where to go. Although you are told, oh, you can't trust your senses, you can't trust your memory, you can't trust your experience, which basically means you should trust us instead because somehow we have better access to those things that we just said were so broken in you. It makes about as much sense as man is inherently evil, therefore we're going to get men to rule men who are inherently evil. What? Well, if men is inherently evil, then how are the rulers not going to be evil too and corrupt? And the other thing is, oh, if man is inherently good, then why do we need anyone to rule him, right? That's the question. So we have our bodies, and we have the truth that comes in through our bodies. And then we learn language, and once we have language, ideas and concepts can be called up and even inserted into us at any point. And that technique, that technology has reached such a peak and such a powerful level that it is, well, I think it got overstepped. I think we saw in the last couple of years that those who have that thought, okay, we're just going to be able to steamroll society with whatever we want from this point. We're going to be able to say whatever we want and it will be truth. We'll be able to tell them to do whatever we wish and it will happen. And now we're noticing, no, that after a couple of years, they get sick of it and they're going to shut it down. And if you look at world wars, if you look at past pandemics, if you look at terrorist focuses and things like that, laws that are passed around those times and the intelligence agencies behind them, you will find that a couple of years is about when society says, no, 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 no. And they may not go back to where they were, and that's the point, but they will go back to some sort of place that at least is not the full-on running like lemmings over the cliff, which also is misinformation and lies, brought to you by Disney, if you want to Google that one. So hard to even talk with any concept about truth because all of pop society is lies. All of society is lies. All of civilization is lies. And it's all built on illusion and artifice. So when I tell you, well, listen to your body and your senses, your eye, if you have eyes to see, let him see. If you have ears to hear, let him hear, as the great teacher and master said. What he's saying is the truth is out there. And it's not out there, it's out here. It's out here in the experience of your senses. And yet we're told not to listen to those. You're told to sit down, shut up, not move. No one asks you when you're 6 years old in school and you want to get up and move around. They don't say, well, how are you feeling? What are you needing? What is going on in your body right now? What kind of senses and sensations are you feeling? And what are they telling you to do? No, 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 no. Everyone tells you the opposite. You're broken, you're bad, you're wrong, you need to sit still, you need to not move, you need to pay attention, you need to memorize, you need to regurgitate. Do you see any problem with this? And do you see what we're dealing with in society in the world right now? Because this has been the training and teaching. And those who rebel are imprisoned, and those who fight against it can be killed. And yeah, truth is not easy. Truth is not easy. I am the way, the truth, the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me, he said. But he also said, straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life, and few there be that find it. Why do so few of us find it? Why do so few of us find and live the truth? And the reason is because it's hard. Because those around us are going in a completely different direction. Because everything that we get trained to believe and see and do and accept is the opposite of the truth. So, how do we find the truth? After being indoctrinated for 27 years, deciding to leave the religion of my youth, my decision was I have to find happiness inside. I have to have the feeling like this is correct, like this is right, like this feels good, like this is harmonious. And how do I do that? I do that by learning to and taking time to feel myself, to feel my body, to use my senses. And that is what meditation is about. The process of taking time to disconnect from all the external reality coming toward you, all the information, all the media, social media, your phone, your computer, etc., and feel in your body somehow. There's 100 ways to do it, 1,000 ideas, and when we begin to connect to our bodies, we begin to get those messages back about what would make us happy, what we would enjoy, what would be good for us. And there is where we start the journey of truth. There is where we begin to find truth. As Lao Tzu said, the truth that can be spoken is not the truth, or the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao. In other words, truth is something that is beyond conception. It is beyond words. It is beyond ideas, which is why Jesus says, come and see. Come and see and experience what happens. Come and watch the healings. Come experience the miracles. Because I can't just tell you and then you know. Art thou he who was sent, or shall we look for another? And he says, tell John what you see, and then he provides a list of miracles and things going on. Does truth lead to miracles, or does truth eschew miracles? Depends on what level you are on the stages of faith. But the true path to truth in the beginning is simply to reconnect to your body and begin to feel it in some process that works for you. You may call it prayer, you may call it contemplation, you may call it meditation, but you have to reconnect to the body to begin to understand truth. This has been Truth Bombs number 1, a little message I'm going to put out every Sunday. And yeah, if you're interested in satsangs where we go deeper into these things, contact me. They are by invitation only and filtered, and there we go deeper and more powerfully into these things. Have a wonderful day.